Here we are, second Energy Day at COP30 in Belém, Brazil, at the Net Zero Nuclear Pavilion. And I have here with me Edward Stones, who is Business Vice President for Energy and Climate at Dow. So thank you, Edward, for being here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It's lovely. So, I'm particularly glad because, of course, Dow is one of the supporters of the Triple Nuclear Coalition. So, thank you very much for your support and for everything you are doing.
Of course.
So let's start maybe from the top. So, how important is reliable and clean energy for industries such as the chemical industry, such as Dow?
Well, really, it's essential because we have a need for a very large amount of both process heat, but also power and steam. And that process heat tends to need to be at very high temperature. It also has to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So that basically means we have to have different types of technologies to provide that. We use approximately 10 gigawatts of power and steam and energy, of the energy from the fuel to make that power, steam, and heat. And that's at 25 major sites worldwide. And that's enough for more than 7 million homes, just to give a perspective. That energy comes from, for us, more than 50 gas and steam turbines and boilers, as well as more than 100 furnaces across the world to make the products and the building blocks that we make.
Lots of energy.
Lots of energy.
Yeah, very good. So let me, this COP we have been really focusing on people. We have been focusing on nature and biodiversity. So how do you think that the nuclear industry can help to deliver this just transition that we've been discussing at this COP?
Yeah, so I think, look, this addresses some of the world's most pressing social and environmental challenges. And, we have a responsibility to our communities. In Texas, we're very much interested in working with Calhoun County and the community around there. We've had information sessions. We've had, we have third generation employees who are very excited to see us invest significantly in the site to maintain competitive power and steam going forward. We also are located within 50 miles of the South Texas nuclear plant, so a lot of support from the community. And we've been very careful about culture, demonstrating our responsibility to that community. We care about our people, our communities, our environment. We're really looking for positive and enduring change in those communities. We've been most of the places we've been around the world for 75 years. In many of them, we started by building hospitals and recreation centers. We have Dow employees who were born in Dow hospitals, and we've moved beyond that in many of our locations. But just to give a sense, this is not a new thing. For 128 years, we've been doing that. And so there are social impacts associated with the climate strategy and the transition. And we're really committed to ensuring a just transition for the workforce, also for the creation of decent, well-paying, high-quality employment for the communities.
Right. Now, so it looks like obviously at Dow you have been looking at that just transition, and you have been looking about the people, not just the one that work for you, but the one in the nearby communities for over 100 years. So you are ahead of COP30, right? In this effort. So let's focus a little bit on the work that you are doing in Texas, the Seadrift project. So tell us a little bit about how this partnership with X Energy started and how it's moving forward. How do you think is nuclear and Dow are going to work together to continue accelerate decarbonization?
Yeah, so Seadrift is one of our most profitable sites, but it's unique in that it doesn't really have a cracker complex. So the challenges are a little bit different. We need it's a little bit further from some of the carbon capture and sequestration opportunities as well. So we have an end-of-life cogeneration unit there, and the opportunity is to provide reliable, on-purpose, high-temperature steam and power for the site. So what we've partnered with X Energy to do is design a project for 4 80 megawatt electric or 200 megawatt thermal reactors, that allows us to have what we call N-2. So we can have one unit out for maintenance and another one can kind of go offline, and we still have full power and steam for our site. Of course, what that also means is that we can provide low carbon, reliable power and steam to the site, to the grid, when the rest of the units are running, which is most of the time, to be frank. So, we like their technology because it's fourth generation, which allows us to get the higher temperature steam. Third generation steam is a little bit lower temperature and therefore less useful in the process industry. And so that's where we are, and we've been working with them to develop the technology, but also to help them with, it's our project, so we're going to execute it the way we do all of our mega projects. And they learn from that, and the country benefits through something called the Advanced Reactor Development Program by the Department of Energy, that allows them and the design to be adapted to be more constructible and faster to build.
Yeah, I think that is a fantastic partnership, right? Because you are not working together just for the energy that the nuclear power plants are going to produce. I think that X Energy and perhaps the overall nuclear industry can definitely learn from the experience that Dow has, as you said, in delivering large infrastructure projects. So certainly we can benefit from your experience. So maybe zooming out a little bit, and you did touch about this. So what are the key points that make nuclear energy attractive for large energy users?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, it's one of the very few approaches that can provide the scale and the quality, the temperature, the reliability of steam that we need, but also power. Our industry is the nation's largest owner of and operator of combined heat and power units, and that efficiency is critical to what we do. So we make useful thermal energy and electricity in one process, and that allows us to have a much higher efficiency in that than if you do it separately, like with a power plant and the boiler. We're also a leading user of renewables, and so we have more than 1,000 megawatts under capacity. But there are some limitations there. They don't get you to the high temperatures. They also have power interruption when, the sun does go down and wind does stop blowing. They also have other grid, firming the grid in terms of frequency and other aspects is much easier with a spinning machine like a nuclear plant. So we think for the long-term sustainable zero emissions power and steam, really nuclear, and then I think also carbon capture on traditional cogens are important. And they're, those are the two technologies that we see. We don't see a credible case for net zero by 2050 or frankly ever without nuclear.
Wow, that is a bold statement. And I mean, again, from our side, obviously, we kind of have similar points of view as you do, but I think it's very important to see that obviously you've done your homework. You are not doing this out of the goodness of your heart. You are being pragmatic and realistic, and I really think that's great to see this partnership. So as we move forward in this type of partnerships between intensive energy users such as Dow and the nuclear industry. So what do you think maybe the enablers that could be more critical to accelerate these partnerships, regulation, policy, new business models, financing? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think really there's three things that need to get done, and it's pretty simple, but they add some complexity. So those three things are fuel. So we need to make sure there's fuel there to run the machine. It's timing. So we can't, our machines have a end of life date unless we're building a brand new facility, in which case there's a startup date. So you got to get the schedule right. And then there's budget. You got to be on budget. We can't have the traditional nuclear doubling or tripling or quadrupling of cost. So, what do you need to do to get there? I think, the fuel is a geopolitical reality. So I think, particularly in the United States, there's been a tremendous amount of thought and development to provide nuclear fuel. X Energy is also building, their TRISO facility, which is going to be, it's an incredibly exciting fuel technology, has very significant safety improvement case. Um, so our confidence in the fuel is growing. The timing, it's really about the regulatory, but also about the development of the supply chain for things like graphite and uh, significant steam generator type stuff. And so I think the National Regulatory Commission on the nuclear side in the United States has really embraced that, and we're very appreciative of that improvement and thoughtfulness as they go forward. An SMR is not the same as a traditional nuclear reactor, and they need to be uh, permitted in a very thoughtful way, but in a way that is distinct and perhaps faster than the traditional bespoke approach. Just as a fact, I think when we build our 4 reactors, they'll be the only 4 reactors in North America that are the same at one site.
Wow.
So that's the opportunity, is to permit and then kind of do it again and again.
I think that's very exciting. Again, how this partnership between Dow and X Energy is incentivizing new ways of doing things for the nuclear industry ourselves, right? So that's very very good. Building on this partnership that we have now between Dow and X Energy, what do you think are the lessons learned or the opportunities for additional partnerships between, well, other large energy users, other sectors of the economy, manufacturing or petrochemical or metallurgical,
Yeah.
to actually accelerate nuclear?
So it does really take a village, and different parts of the chain have different capabilities. X Energy clearly has the nuclear technology piece. I think we're pretty good at project execution. But when it comes to things, other parts of the technology chain, um, the financial chain, the expertise, there are clearly partnerships. So let me share a couple. So probably the single most important partnership is with the Department of Energy, with the Advanced Reactor Development Program. Without that, frankly, we're not interested. Also important in that are the tax incentives for nuclear in the United States. Um, when you're building first of a kind, you need a lot of realization that the first one is going to cost more than the next one and then the following ones. And so it's a challenge and an opportunity. We can take that on, but our shareholders demand a viable return on this project, and that means that we have to kind of manage that risk. I think the second one is, our suppliers have to getting on board with this being not one, but many. And so, yes, we'll build 4 reactors, but the chain that X Energy is developing is dozens and dozens of reactors. And so, we have partnerships across the world, and some have been announced. I mean, I think it was one with Doosan for a lot of the steam generator technology, the Office of Nuclear Energy to help with the kind of testing of the fuel, the TRISO. The TRISO obviously has been developed by the country and specifically the plant by X Energy. Toyo Tanzo has been announced on some of the graphite as a partner there. We have NextEra working with us on operability on our side. And so, and then I'd say finally, perhaps one of the more important but least known is Calhoun County and the community. They've been very, very supportive, and from all the way from the county judge, who, strangely enough, is the chief executive of the county in Texas, to the community and our employees and others. Also, I think commercially, it helps us tremendously to have AWS and Centrica also engaged in this ecosystem. Um, Together, we can provide a pathway for technical innovation, for reduced supply chain cost, and moving in that direction. So
So, you started to talk about this a little bit. So we have talked mostly about the United States, about North America, in particular, perhaps about Texas to start with, and then maybe elsewhere in North America. But how do you think that we can export, if you wish, or take this success story elsewhere in the world? How, I mean, you started talking about the partnership with Doosan, but perhaps there are other countries in the world that would love for their chemical industry to learn from the Dow experience.
Yeah, so I think in fairness, we should also call out Washington State for their effort in this as well. So um, I think, look, acceptance varies. I mean, and it's in some cases it's very strange. Germany's very happy to buy the nuclear power produced in France, but they're not happy to have nuclear power plants in Germany. I don't understand that. That needs to change. I think you need support first of a kind, and I think the United Kingdom has really come through there. Korea has also been very important in that development recently. The Netherlands is getting closer, and we see a lot of effort around our sites there to understand that as well. Um, I think utilities, companies, um, are going to have a difficulty with a first of a kind on their own. So you need to have the support of the governments. Um, Industry can help, but only, we can only do what our shareholders are going to see as a positive, for the company. That's their stakeholder base. So the ARDP program needs to be extended. Canada's done a lot there, but I think, and the UK as well. But I think other countries need to step in. And at the end, it's about three things. Like I said, the fuel, the budget, and the schedule. You need partnerships. They need to be pragmatic. Um, you know, on fuel, on technology, on the supply chain. It needs to be predictable. So you can't have a change in regulatory environment that happens and then we go from wanting to build to not wanting to build. I mean, I think to be fair to both the Biden and Trump administrations, each has supported the nuclear industry in the United States, despite perhaps the largest disparity in in the overall approach to governing. So that's been tremendously important, and we need to see that elsewhere in the world. And then the final thing, and let's not underestimate this, is you need community engagement. The community where you're building this asset needs to want it, and needs to support it, and needs to be engaged. And so that's where we're, you know.
Well, I think it's great. I think that what you said, how in the United States, even through several administrations, we've seen continued support for nuclear. For a while, it was perhaps the one of the few things
Right.
that different administrations agreed on. And actually, I think that Dow Chemical is uh, well, putting into practice a little bit what we've been trying to theorize with this big coalition of the ambitious that we put together for the triple nuclear, bringing together the governments, bringing together the finance community, bringing together the large energy users, but of course making sure that the nuclear industry is ready to deliver on these partnerships. So I mean, best of luck with the project that you are pursuing with X Energy. I mean, clearly you are in a good direction. Thank you very much for being here with us at the Net Zero Nuclear Pavilion at COP30. All the best for the rest of your time here in Belém. Hopefully, it's very fruitful and safe travels back home.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.